The Rise of the Duelist set has some really interesting cards in it. One of them is being the Dragma archetype. Now, I normally don't make videos like this, but it would be really interesting to talk about something from a future set and discuss on how powerful it could be. In this video, we're going to be doing just that, talking about Dragma from the Rise of the Duelist set. So of course, if you guys want to see more videos like this, then make sure you destroy that like button, but also comment down below in the comment section what archetype do you want to see me talk about next, or even more importantly, what is your favorite card from this Dragma set, or your thoughts and opinions. Without further ado, let's jump on in. Okay guys, so a quick overview over the Dragma monsters is that they seem to be dependent, or actually they are dependent on the extra deck, whether it's having monsters on the extra deck to the side of the field or sending monsters from the extra deck to the graveyard. Personally, I get like a true Draco slash Necros type vibe from the strategy, but let's jump on in and talk about the cards. The first card we're going to be talking about is Dragma no Seijo Ecclesia, or Ecclesia the Dragma Saint. Now, I apologize for butchering card names, but I'm trying my best here. What this level 4 light spellcaster monster does is you can use the 1 and 2 effects of this card once per turn each. If a monster was special summoned from the extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. I actually really like this card because it does provide a free monster to the side of the field in a format where, or in a card game where being able to summon free monsters to your side of the field are scarce in specific types. So being able to get a free monster because everything plays an extra deck is pretty cool. I like that that's rather generic. The next effect says, if this card is normal summon or special summon, you can add 1 Dragma card from your deck to your hand, except for herself. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. Now, you're going to see that clause, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for your rest of your turn, quite a few times, and that's kind of okay because it feels that this deck can go first and special summon monsters from the extra deck, and then you turn around and you summon these monsters and don't worry about the extra deck, or if you're going second and your opponent did special summon the extra deck, you just flat out get these cards for free. Next is, this card cannot be destroyed by battle that with the monster that is special summoned from the extra deck. I think that this card is pretty good. It's going to be a secret rare when it does come to us in Rise of the Duelist, as it is the searcher card, and history suggests that every single time we get a good searcher card, that is going to be the main theme for the new master rule that we have. It's going to be the secret rare and the most expensive card in the set, or one of the most expensive cards. The next card we're going to be talking about is Dragma no Theo. So Theo the Dragma Iron Hammer. I'm actually just going to read the English names. This guy actually looks really cool. He seems to be a level 4 spellcaster. I think the Dragma archetype are all level 4 spellcasters, 1800 attack, 1500 defense, and you can obviously only use 1 and 3 effects per turn. Now again, these archetypes seem really based on having a monster special summon from the extra deck, as if a monster was special summoned from the extra deck, you special summon this card from your hand, same as our Ecclesia effect. And obviously it cannot be destroyed by battle with the monster special from the extra deck, which is really good. And then its other effect is you can target 1 face-up monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, and to the end of the turn, this card gains 600 attack. And if it does, that target loses 600 attack. Now, the thing I actually like about this card is that while Ecclesia is an extender for its own archetype or for a deck that won't be using the extra deck, Theo can actually allow you to go into the extra deck. You can summon him to your side of the field by having a monster from the extra deck and then continue on with your plays, extra deck summoning and whatnot. So this is a more generic card for the set or for the strategy, and I think that it could work in some other strategies. There's also another card in here that I think is completely phenomenal, and we'll talk about that a little later. The next card is going to be Adin the Dragma Oracle. This is a pretty cool card. Again, this looks like a spellcaster archetype, 1000 attack, 1800 defense light monster, and you can only use the 1 of 3 effects once per turn each. If a monster was special from the extra deck, you guys should already get it, another generic one. Cannot be destroyed by battle with a special summon monster from extra deck, you guys already know. And if this card is on the field as destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 dragon monster from your Dragma monster from your deck, except for Adin Dragma of Oracle, which is really cool because both Theo and Adin can be used inside of a strategy to special summon monster, or to special summon themselves to extend. But if Adin is destroyed extra, you can special summon Theo, which is kind of good. And the next thing that I like about these cards is that they are level 4 spellcasters. So there are some cards like Gigabyte and Ranryu that can special summon themselves just by controlling spellcasters. This whole deck can be, or these two cards can literally help an entire engine of a deck, which I think is pretty cool, and it can be inside of its own deck. The next card is Fleurdelis, the Dragma Knight. It is a level 8 spellcaster, 25/25, pretty cool card. And it says, of course, you can only use the 1 and 2 effects of this card once per turn each. During the main phase, if a monster was special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, this is a quick effect, so this one's a little better. You can special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you control another Dragma monster, you can negate the effects of one face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. This card is also a really good card because, again, it allows you to have interaction on both players' turns. If your opponent special summons a deadly extra deck monster, well, you can go ahead and plop this bad boy to your side of the field and negate that monster's effect, which is pretty cool. And it also does not have the restriction of you can't special summon monsters from your extra deck for the rest of the turn, making the strategy fairly viable for every, for any deck that can abuse special summoning monsters from the extra deck and needs extenders for an engine. Its 2 effects says when your Dragma monster declares an attack, you can make all Dragma monsters you control gain 500 attack. Now, again, that effect may be a little underwhelming, but that boost is permanent, so that's not terrible. It's not until the end of the turn. It is a permanent effect, which makes him 3,000 attack and makes your Dragma monsters considerably stronger, so that's pretty decent. A card after that is Maximus Dragma, a level 8 spellcaster, 1,500 attack, 3,000 defense, so rather underwhelming in the attack department, but probably will have a good effect. Now again, you can only use the 1 and 2 of this card effects once per turn, and one thing I do keep thinking it's gonna say once per match, but it's like once per turn. That's really good. This is actually, I think this is the one I like the most. This one says you can banish one fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster from your graveyard. Special summon this card from your hand. Also, during your main phase, you can activate this effect. You can add special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of your turn. Send 2 monsters with different names from your extra deck to the graveyard. Also, your opponent sends 2 monsters from their extra deck to the graveyard. Now, the reason why I'm getting so many Necros vibes with this strategy is because this is a Necros card. People don't understand. Walk with me, guys. You extra foolish burial goods, the one to send Herald from your deck to the graveyard, search a Necros monster, then you can special summon Maximus to your side of the field and send a totally awesome and another Herald monster to not only search another card, but recur another Necros card from your graveyard to your hand, and you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. When has that ever been a restriction? On top of that, this card is a level 8 monster, which, I mean, doesn't really help Necros because the level 7 and higher can't be used for ritual summons of the exact level, but still, you guys get exactly what I'm saying. I love this card, not only for the Dragma archetype, but for Necros. It feels amazing, at least in my head. Like, head-wise, it seems like, oh my god, this is Necros support, and it's gonna be amazing for that strategy. The next card is going to be Tetragrammaton. That card. So it is a 32/32. It looks like a level 10 monster, a level 11 monster, spellcaster monster, and it says cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by its own effect. You can target 4 fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monsters in either graveyard. Special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, banish those targets. This card is going to be not so much of a great card. I mean, so you're gonna need to have 4 fusion, synchro, exceed, and link monsters, which some decks can do really well, but I don't think this deck can put 4 monsters in the graveyard fairly easy. Actually, I might take that back, because if I remember correctly, there is a spell card that does help that tremendously, and over the battle of attrition, you know, later into the game, you may be able to summon this card, but this feels like a one-of inside of the deck at most, and it does have a pretty decent effect. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summon monster, destroy as many monsters in as many opponents' attack position monsters as possible, then inflict 800 damage for each Fusion, Synchro, Link, or Xe destroyed by this effect. So as you guys already know, Link monsters must be in attack. So if your opponent is playing a huge Link board, well, this can wipe the entire board. And then the cool thing is that it just destroys all special summon monsters. So if summoning this card, 3200 can potentially wipe your opponent's entire board. And then, of course, monsters did change. You can redeclare and potentially go for game. The next card is going to be Dogmatika Nation Dragma. It is a field spell card, and you can only use the 2 and 3 effects of this card once per turn each. One effect is neither player can target Dragma monsters you control with card effects that were special summoned from the extra deck. Effect number 2 is if your Dragma monster battles an opponent's monster, after damage calculation, you can destroy that opponent's monster, which is pretty decent. Your Dragma monsters, for the most part, can't be destroyed by monster spells from the extra deck, so you just battle them, take a little damage potentially, and then destroy that opponent's monster. The third effect is if this face-up field zone card is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can make both players send one monster from the extra deck to the graveyard. So the Dragma archetype seems to be predicated on getting rid of your opponent's extra deck resources, but to be honest with you guys, it only gets rid of them when they're in the extra deck or the graveyard. So I don't think it's going to be huge. Like, that's not going to be something that's going to kill the opponent. But again, in the battle of attrition, when games start to last really long, then this could be a problem, as they're probably going to maybe want to shuffle back in those extra deck monsters or bring them back to the side of the field, or even summon them to the other side of the field. Next is going to be Disciple of Nadir. It is a spell card. You can only activate this card's name once per turn. You can send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then add one Dragma monster or Albus the Nullius Filius from your deck or graveyard to your hand with an attack equal or less than the sent monsters. Okay, so is there a monster with less than 600 attack that is a Dragma? Is there a monster with less than 600 attack that is a Dragma? Is there a monster with less than? That is so unfortunate. There is not. Its Herald is, if I remember correctly, a weaker monster. It has 600 attack. Unfortunately, there's no Dragma monster with that, because the game plan would have been to send your Herald to the graveyard and then search the card that you need, which would be the other monster, and search a ritual, all in the same process, which would have been way too strong. I think that would have been just completely amazing. The next card, or ultimately this card is still good for the Dragma archetype. It's a free search, and it can get monsters from the graveyard to your hand. It's going to be really interesting to see what extra deck monsters this strategy will play. Dragma Punishment is a trap card from this set, and it reads, you can only activate one card with this card's name once per turn. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard with an equal or higher attack, and if you do, destroy that targeted monster. Until the end of the next turn after this resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from extra decks. So I was going to say this card is amazing for all decks until you get that last restriction, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Next is going to be Dragma Encounter, another trap card in the set. You can special summon one Dragma or one Albus Nullius Filius from your hand, or you can take one Dragma monster or one Albus from your graveyard and either add it to your hand or special summon it. I've been wondering what this Albus card is. Here it is. I don't like that these cards are trap cards, but I think that there could be some use for them, maybe depending on how this Albus card is and how important it is to the strategy. So Albus the Nullius Filius is a Dragon Dark effect monster, 1800 attack, 0 defense, and you can only use this card's name effect once per turn. If this card is normal special summon, discard one card, fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using this card on the field, and monsters your opponent controls as fusion material. That is, whoa, that's pretty good. I mean, I haven't even read the fusion monster just yet, but this card not only looks awesome, it is pretty good, allowing you to fusion summon one fusion monster using this card and opponent's monsters. This is a walking super polymerization. That's dope. The card is going to be Kanryu, Bastard of the Ashen Dragon. We're not going to get that card's name. Level 8 Dark Dragon Fusion Effect Monster, 25 2000. Of course, requires Albus and one monster with 2500 or more attack. I was hoping for it to be generic. 2500 or more attack is probably going to mean the monster is going to be special summon from the extra deck more than likely. Still not a bad card, but you can only use the 3 effect of this card's name once per turn. It gains attack equal to the original levels of all monsters used as material for this card's fusion summon. Not bad. If this card is fusion summoned for the rest of the turn, it is unaffected by activated effects from any other monster that was special from the extra deck. not bad. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can take one Dragma monster or one Albus Folius from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. This card's not that bad, especially since Albus is going to trigger immediately because it is a trigger effect. If it's normal or special summon, you can fusion summon. And I think that this is a very, very strong archetype with a lot of room for improvement. Some things that I definitely would watch out for is a Dragma monster with less than 600 attack, because that would make this extremely live for Necros. And the next thing that I will watch out for is more fusion monsters that Albus can summon. Well, that's it, pretty much it for everything the Dragma archetype. I think that it's a solid deck, possibly a potential tier 1 deck depending on what future support it can get. Right now, maybe a tier 2 deck at best, but ultimately a great deck. I hope to see you guys on the next video, and I hope you guys are having a great day like I am.